upcoming Sun and Venus conjunction. This is also called cosimi, or a new kind of like term to it is Venus star point. And this is actually very important conjunction because it is marking a longer period of time. So you will be feeling this conjunction approximately until January 2026. But let me not get into that technological part as much. I mean, I do want to give you a bit of a clue about what a Venus star point actually represents. So I will be doing that. But before we get started, I would like you to like the video, share the video, potentially make a comment on it. And I've noticed that about 60% of my viewers are not registered or not subscribed to my channel. So it would be an honor if you join my family so that you can get updates every single week about what is going on in the sky. And also, if you would like to have a personal reading with me, then you can go ahead and check out my website, AstroViktor.com. And also, you can study astrology with me as well. I've got approximately about 170 courses and webinars altogether available on my website. I teach about 4 times a week. I've got currently a course going on about your vocational strength. So, what is your vocational call? And then how you can make the most money out of it. So, but let's get started with this upcoming Venus star point. Well, first of all, what is Venus? So, Venus represents, I mean, we're going to be looking at the darker side and the more positive side of it as well. So, Venus is how we relate to others, how we express our affection, what ways we feel appreciated, how we create harmony and balance in our lives. Also, it shows what you like and what you dislike, your taste, the way we dress up, your makeup, and even it represents fetishes and porn as well. So, the mythological side of Venus is that she was the Roman goddess of sex, love, fertility, and beauty. And she was a bit, kind of like she loved men, let's just put it that way. So she even had some lovers, such as Vulcan or Mars. And actually, she got trapped in a love triangle. And basically, she had 4 children. Vulcan had 4 children with other women as well. And then Vulcan got to know the romance between Venus and Mars. So he created this invisible net, set it around their beds, and basically they were caught in the bedroom. And then Vulcan called all the gods into the bedroom to humiliate them. So they had 4 children. I mean, she had children with Mars as well. We had Phobos, the god of fear, Deimos, the god of terror, Harmonia, which is about concord and harmony, and even Cupid, which is the asteroid of infatuation. So Venus is, by the way, very interesting planet because it's the warmest of the solar system. You would not think that, but actually it is because she is not the closest to the sun. So it would be Mercury, right? But Mercury is not the hottest planet out of it. And even she has got the most volcanoes. So it does bring up the question whether Venus has got something to do with the volcano eruptions, for example, or not. Venus represents enjoyment, fun, the desire to party, kind of like being drunk on feelings, how we seduce others, how far we go to have kind of like harmony in our life. And of course, from a love point of view, I mean, love can be platonic, physical, unreachable, type of love as well. It could be a love towards a friend. By the way, Venus rules 2 signs, there's Taurus and Libra. So the Taurian one is more practical, and the Libra one is more on the kind of like more on the relationship level. Venus represents the 5 senses, especially when it comes to the taste, but it also shows what type of manner we portray, how we cooperate with others. And it does have got quite a lot of materialistic side, of course, because it is also the ruler of Taurus. Now, some of the dark side of Venus is about perversion, hedonism, prostitution, gluttony, being in love with the idea of love. There is kind of like a lack of satisfaction going on with this. Sometimes it could be becoming very shameless or even emotionally demanding as well. Now, I don't necessarily want to be talking to you about Venus meanings as much. I just wanted to give you a bit of a summary here. But what you might want to remember is that Venus spends 9 months as a morning star and 9 months as an evening star. It goes retrograde 5 times in 8 years' time, and then it always goes retrograde in the same sign. And every fifth conjunction takes place around the same zodiacal degree as well. When it goes retrograde, it is about retrograde for about 40 days, and 40 is quite a special number, to be frank, from a biblical point of view, because Moses spent 40 days on the mountain. Jesus was dealing with temptation, fasting on a desert for 40 days. Also, there are 40 spaces on the Monopoly board. 9 months uh, evening star and morning star, right? So that's about the typical pregnancy, which is lasting for about 40 weeks. And then also, if you think about that 40 is the number of thieves Alibaba clashes with in the Arabic Nights tale. And a lot other type of things to mention about that 40 days. But what happens is that, so every 8 years, Venus is retrograde in the same sign. So Venus possibly can only go retrograde in 5 signs. And then it's kind of like creating a mandala. It looks like a rose pattern. So we're going to have always an inferior or a superior conjunction happening between Venus and the Sun. And basically, where to start. Like inferior or superior conjunction basically means that Venus is going to be making a conjunction to the Sun when it is a retrograde, and also it's going to be making a conjunction when it is actually in a direct motion. So one is called inferior, the other one is called superior conjunction. It's a little bit of a, kind of like a just a little detail for you to put out there. So now what happens is that basically between these conjunctions, we always have got about 9 month periods. And as I said earlier, Venus goes retrograde approximately about 1.6 years. So one Venus cycle lasts for about 548 days. And every 4 years, we've got a conjunction at the same place, and every 8 years, the conjunction at the same place in retrograde motion. So you can be looking at it as a 4 8 year cycle. So because we're going to have the conjunction coming up on the 22nd of March, 2025, you can go back to 2021, or you can even go back to 2017 and then have a look at what went down in your life. So every 250 years, the Venus star point returns to the same sign. And every 120 years, one star point moves through one sign of the zodiac. So now, because we're going to have the Venus star point in Aries, and it's been going on for a while, so the next time when a new phase starts, I think it's going to be 2038, then it's all going to be shifting into the sign of Taurus. So that's kind of like what I wanted to mention to you about Venus star point. By the way, the next Venus star point, I think it's in December. It's going to be in the sign of Capricorn. And just to give you an idea, for example, in 2014, January, we had in Capricorn, that was on 22 degree. We had January 2018, that happened on 18 degree. So it's pretty much always shifting back a couple of degrees. And then this is how it's going to be kind of like starting. Now, in March 2017, the Aries star point happened on 4 degree of Aries, and then we had one in March 2021 as well, which happened almost on 6 degree. So the upcoming Venus star point is going to be on 2 degree of Aries. And now this is quite a special one. The reason why, because the upcoming Saturn and Neptune conjunction also going to be taking place on that 2 degree of Aries. So we do have got a lot of Aries energy going on, of course. So just know that, and we're gonna have to kind of like talk about what the Aries archetype is. But before we do that, so as I said, we've got this morning star and evening star connected to Venus. So the morning star is actually when we have got an inferior conjunction happening between Venus and the Sun. And Venus at this time is actually retrograde, meaning that Venus is the closest to Earth. It's also called as a perigee. And the morning star is actually called the Aphrodite Pandemos, which is more of a warrior goddess. When Venus is more of an evening star, it's called Aphrodite Urania, and then that would be more connected to kind of like a love goddess type of things. So you can even, what you can be doing in your natal chart, you can be looking at whether you were born with a morning star or an evening star phase. And when it's basically a morning star, so because that's what Venus is going to become right now. As I said, it's a warrior goddess. It's more the yang expression of Venus. It's kind of like an underworld Venus. It moves more slowly. It is more practical, more earthly, more realist. So a lot more of the Taurus expression of Venus is going to come out, but it could really be much about first thing, late, like feel first, think later type of person. So this could be talking to you about being guided by your emotions. Maybe there is a bit of a lack of logic going on. Now, when it's a evening star, then it's the yin expression of Venus, moves a lot faster. It's more of the Libra expressions, and it becomes more of an idealist, more of a dreamer, and so forth. So I'm just giving you some hints how you can go about your own natal chart. If you are wondering how you can figure out whether you have got a morning star or an evening star, you're gonna want to have a look at the Venus position in your chart. But first, locate the sun in your natal chart. If Venus is clockwise from the sun, meaning it's in an earlier zodiacal degree or sign, then you were born with a morning star Venus. If Venus is positioned counterclockwise from the sun, so it's at a later zodiacal sign or degree, then you were born as an evening star Venus. So for example, I've got the sun on 16 degree of Aquarius, and then my Venus is on 9 degree of Pisces. So I'm more of an evening star Venus, which means that I'm more about the Libra side of Venus. And that would be the representation of relationship or orientation, dreaming about relationship, and so forth. Okay, so that's the technical part here. Now, when there is that Venus Cassini happening, which means that an exact conjunction between Venus and the Sun, that's when we have got a Venus kind of like star point starting. And everyone has got 5 Venus star points, by the way. So you might want to be locating those in your chart, and that could be giving you clues about what to expect in your love life. So to give you an example, I mean, if you don't have a program, I think there is a Venus star point calculator available on Google. So you just want to be checking out. But I've got, for example, a 17 degree Aries. I've got a 1 degree Aquarius. I've got an 11 degree Scorpio. I've got a 1 degree Virgo and then a 24 degree Gemini Venus star point, because remember, it's going kind of backwards every 4 to 8 years. It goes back about 2 degrees. So that's why it's spending a good 120 year in one sign. Okay. So it's a little bit more on the technical side, but I just wanted you to have being able to have a look at a different way of working with um, with Venus in your chart. Now, let's get into the interpretation side of it. So this is an interesting Venus star point because it's going to be making quite a few conjunctions. So Venus went retrograde. To be very technical about it, Venus started its retrograde motion on 10 degree of Aries on the 2nd of March. And then we got this Venus Cazimi, or the Venus star point, going on the 23rd of March, 2 degree of Aries. And then on the 27th of March, Venus actually shifts back into the sign of Pisces to 29 degree. And that's very interesting also because that's the day, or not the day, but it happens around the solar eclipse as well. And then Venus stations direct on the 13th of April on 24 degree of Pisces, and it's going to go back into the sign of Aries on the 30th of April. So Venus is making three conjunctions to Saturn, Neptune, and the North Node during this journey. So between Venus and Saturn, we had one already on the 19th of January. We're going to have one on the 7th of April, and then we're going to have one on the 25th of April. With Neptune, Venus made a conjunction on the 1st of February, on the 27th of March, and then finally it's going to make a conjunction on the 2nd of May as well. And with the nodes, it's pretty much the same. It's in 1st of February, the very first time, and we've got 1st of April, and then the 24th of April. So I wanted to give you all these kind of like dates here because this could be super important. So Venus is going through this rebirth, basically. And what it pretty much represents is that relationship cycles. Obviously, it's in the sign of Aries as well as Libra. So what type of relationships we've got here? It happens in the sign of Aries, which is very passionate. It's an activator. It's a pioneer. It's a warrior type of energy. So maybe I'm reconsidering whether it is worth fighting for certain type of collaborations, for example, to be feeling protected. And the protection comes from the fact that Mars is still in the sign of Aries. And Venus and Mars together is always going to be talking about relationship dynamics, whether to love or to be in a war. Or it could really represent certain type of like going through phases in our relationship department. So, with this Venus energy, I would say that what we need to be watching out for is that it's very possible that are um, we are focusing a lot on our relationships, on what makes us happy, because Aries is very much to do with entitlement. And it could feel like that I'm entitled to be happy, I'm entitled to be loved, I'm entitled to be paid attention to. But of course, this Venus, due to its Libra expression, therefore, it's going to be more about love and relationship topics rather than it's going to be talking to us about finances. But I also want to mention that Venus represents finances, and we might want to be looking at our connections with money. So how do I feel about my finances? What my relationship is with money? At what type of money blockages I have? This could really much talk to us about self-love, that you want to be improving your self-worth, you want to be working with your self-esteem, and maybe you just want to look somehow different. You want to be maybe pampering yourself. Maybe you want to end up doing a haircut. You want to change something because you want to be able to look into the mirror and then you want to feel better. Venus is also quite a social planet. So maybe it's all about you want to be, maybe you are a little bit scared to kind of like show your affection towards others, or simply you want to look more attractive, or you want to be more like having the nerve, the charisma. Also, maybe you are considering whether it's worth being around certain type of people. Maybe they are not fun anymore. Venus is also about seeking pleasure. often through sex or entertainment. So it can talk to you about having to look at whether I deserve some certain type of fun in my life. Also, maybe because Venus represents artistic abilities as well. So maybe you want to initiate something in the artistic field, such as, I don't know, you want to sing, you want to do certain type of dancing, you want to do certain type of sports. Or even it could represent that you are about to kind of try to think like, I have to keep my enemies or my friends close, but I have to keep my enemies even closer type of approach, because you never know when you have to be counting on someone. Venus is a people pleaser, but in the sign of Aries, it doesn't want to sugarcoat. So you can become very blunt about something. You can be very direct to them. And it's very easy to get into arguments because remember, Mars is in the sign of Cancer. So you are emotionally quite charged, and emotionally, you can be a lot more defensive as well. On top of that, I would also like to mention that on the very same day when we have got the Venus star point starting, we also have got a last quarter moon phase happening as well. What it means is that basically the moon and the sun are in square. The moon is on 2 degree of Capricorn, and and of course, we've got the sun, which is in conjunction to Venus. So I want to talk about the last quarter moon phase as well, because a quarter moon phase represents crisis. So it looks like we've got a crisis of committing to something. Now, to kind of like explain what this last quarter moon phase is, maybe we can kind of do that from a biological point of view. This is the representation of winter time. So things start to change its color. The tree is dropping pretty much its colors, the leaves are kind of like changing colors. So basically, the fall season is starting. So we start questioning certain type of things during a third quarter moon phase or a last quarter moon phase. What's the meaning to life? What's the purpose of life? It's kind of like a bit of a midlife crisis type of situation. This is about something dramatic happening. Sometimes we make a dramatic shifts. Sometimes we explore something alternative in our life. Imagine the last quarter moon phase is kind of like being the ninth house interest. So something like my opinion is changing, my philosophical approach is changing over something. So, maybe what we are struggling with is that I don't know with this Aries element, I don't know why I haven't achieved anything, for example, in my career. If it's happening, for example, in your 10th house. Often this is about because the leaves are falling off, we have got the tendency to walk away from something. Also, astrologers call it as crisis in consciousness. So something is not necessarily aligned with our belief system anymore. And this is the reason why we want to walk away from something. So we're gonna have this type of feeling to this Venus star point, walking away from certain type of relationships. But before we do that, well, we're gonna get into confrontations as well. We're gonna have certain type of tensions going on, of course, between the Aries and the Capricorn element of our chart. And Aries is the toddler type of energy, while Capricorn is more to do with the maturation. So it looks like that we are going to be having a very immature type of action here. And this is the reason why Venus is retrograde. It is asking us to kind of evaluate whether we are mature about a certain type of a decision that we are about to take. And Capricorn represents the old. Retrograde also represents something from the past as well. So in order for us to move forward, we're gonna have to maybe have a closure connected to a work or an older person, for example. Maybe certain type of an old lesson that is going to be coming back with it that you're going to have to be able to deal with. So imagine that this last quarter moon phase aligned with this Sun and Venus conjunction is kind of like a junction. I don't know whether to initiate something or I don't know, like sticking with something that I truly uh, like am aware of. So while this Venus star point would like to start a new beginning, basically, the Capricorn element says that we don't have clarity about it. We are afraid of it. And it's connected somehow to politics. It's connected somehow to even financial situation or stability matters. So something is coming back from the past. Maybe you want to say goodbye to a person. Maybe you have been contemplating, maybe since January, whether you want to be ending this certain type of a connection with someone or not. And by the way, the Sun and Venus conjunction also has got a trine to Juno, which just turned retrograde. And Juno is the representation of commitments, but also it represents contractual agreements. So it really feels like in the world, certain type of contractual agreements are going to be ended or revisited. We are reevaluating our relationship as a contract with someone. We are reconsidering our chances with or without this type of partner. So we're going to see this in the political world. There is going to be probably quite a tension going down in the world, I would say. Let's say, between two leaders of the government, because Aries is very much about leadership as well as Capricorn. And we are reconsidering whether it's worth kind of like for this contract to go forward. And because Juno is going to go back into the sign of Scorpio, there is certain type of trust issues coming up with this, but also maybe certain type of financial considerations also. So this is what I kind of wanted to share with you very briefly about this upcoming um, Sun and Venus conjunction. There is a lot of stress going on. You might think that this last quarter moon phase only lasts for, a few hours, but it really feels like that this last quarter moon phase, so basically the crisis in the consciousness, might be lasting for a good year. And also this could talk to us about like a breaking point in certain type of connections, but we might be regretting that. We might want to be amending that relationship once Venus goes back to North Node or Neptune. And we might want to be kind of like focusing a little bit more on actually building certain type of new connections. So, guys, this is my take on the upcoming Venus star point. I hope it helps, and I will see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.